About History series, The Impact of the Penghu Naval Battle.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are unpacking a historical butterfly effect so massive, it literally shifted the destiny of an entire region. In this explainer, we're traveling back to June 1683. We're looking at an absolutely colossal clash in the Taiwan Strait between the Qing and Zheng forces. I mean, we're talking hundreds of ships, tens of thousands of men, and a chain reaction that is still deeply felt today. We are going to break down exactly how this single, intense military campaign completely rewired the cultural landscape.
So, right off the bat, we're faced with a fascinating paradox. How in the world did one of the most brutal naval battles in the Taiwan Strait end up giving birth to the ultimate symbol of tranquility and divine protection, the goddess of peace? It sounds like a total contradiction, right? But as we trace the events from the spilling of blood on ship decks to the burning of incense in grand temples, you'll see exactly how this incredible transformation happened.
To really get this, we have to look at the two commanders at the helm, because their mindsets could not be more different. On side A, we've got the Zheng commander, Liu Guoxuan. He's built this massive, star-studded defense network at Penghu. But his strategy? Completely defensive. He refuses to strike early because he just assumes a June typhoon is going to roll in and naturally wipe out the enemy. Then, on side B, we have the Qing commander, Shi Lang. Now get this. He's 63 years old, and just 7 days before setting sail, he actually lost his right eye. But does that stop him? No way. He pushes forward, commanding from his platform with just his left eye, taking the fight straight to the enemy. So Liu assumed that Qing forces would just sit around, waiting for the weather to turn. Well, he was dead wrong. On June 14th, Shi Lang's fleet departs, catching a favorable south wind. By the afternoon of the 15th, boom, they've already arrived at Penghu. Liu's officers practically begged him to attack right then while the Qing forces were still unsteady, but Liu held back. He was still waiting for that typhoon. Because of that hesitation, Shi Lang launches his first attack on June 16th, and by June 22nd, the final, decisive assault kicks off. Spoiler alert, the typhoon never came. Now, it's absolutely crucial to grasp just how visceral that initial clash on June 16 was. This wasn't just taking pot shots from a distance. This was gruesome, close-quarters combat. The Qing vanguard, a general named Lanli, took a direct hit to the stomach. The wound was so bad that his intestines actually spilled out onto the deck. But he didn't stop. He ordered his brother to literally stuff his intestines back into his abdomen, and he stood right back up to keep commanding his troops. Talk about terrifying willpower. Because of this, he went down in history with the intense nickname, the Broken-Bellied General. When the dust finally settled on this showdown, everything kind of revolved around the number 300. During that final assault on June 22nd, Shi Lang commanded a massive fleet of over 300 warships. He split them into left, right, and center divisions to just completely overwhelm the enemy. But, 300 is also the heavy price he paid. The Qing forces lost over 300 of their own men in that incredibly brutal final engagement. And Shi Lang's commitment to this fight went way beyond just issuing orders. He didn't just send random soldiers into the meat grinder, he brought his own blood. He placed more than 20 of his own relatives across the various warships to fight, bleed, and potentially die right alongside the regular troops. This included 4 of his own sons. His youngest, Shi Bao, was only 16 years old at the time. This was a man risking his entire family to secure a win. By sunset, the largest naval battle the Taiwan Strait had ever seen was over, and the toll was just staggering. While the Qing fleet suffered those 300-plus casualties, the Zheng fleet was absolutely shattered. Over 12,000 Zheng soldiers were killed, and more than 5,000 surrendered. Liu Guoxuan was forced to turn tail and flee back to Taiwan. After a loss of that magnitude, even the most hardcore pro-war faction woke up and realized that surrender was pretty much their only option. Section 1, the strategy of mercy. Winning without bloodshed. Okay, so this brings us to an absolute masterclass in psychological strategy. How exactly do you conquer an island without burning it to the ground? After the victory at Penghu, the Qing governor was basically breathing down Shi Lang's neck, urging him to push forward and attack Taiwan immediately. But Shi Lang showed incredible restraint here. He knew the Zheng forces still had 40,000 troops left. A cornered enemy fights to the death, and that would mean rivers of blood. So instead, he stays put in Penghu and sends emissaries with 3 very specific promises. First, he acknowledged them as brothers, promising no mass slaughter. Second, anyone who surrendered and pledged loyalty to the Qing would actually be rewarded with official titles. And third, he promised not to harm the Zheng family leaders. And honestly, The strategy worked flawlessly. The ruler of the Qing regime at the time, Zheng Keshuang, was only 14 years old. His advisors were totally split. Some were even saying, hey, let's flee to the Philippines, preserve our forces, and fight another day. But, swayed by Shi Lang's promises and backed by the defeated commander Liu Guoxuan, the young ruler made a surprisingly mature call. On July 20th, he ordered his forces to shave their heads and formally surrender, completely avoiding a massive, bloody invasion.
Section 2. Fall of the Ming, a tragic end. Now, while this surrender definitely saved tens of thousands of lives, it also sealed a deeply heartbreaking fate for the last remnants of the fallen Ming Dynasty. Enter Prince Zhu Shugui. He was a royal descendant of the Ming Dynasty, holding the title of Prince of Ningjing. Back in 1664, the Zheng forces actually brought him to Taiwan to serve as the ultimate living symbol of Ming legitimacy. But now, with the Zheng forces yielding to the Qing, the 66-year-old prince faced an impossible choice. For him, as a royal of the old dynasty, bowing to the Qing conquerors was absolutely out of the question. When the prince heard the news of the surrender, he brought his 5 concubines together and told them to flee, to go find a way to survive. But in a truly heart-wrenching moment, they refused to leave him. They recited this tragic vow, Wang Shang Ju Sheng, Wang Si Ju Si, which means, if the king lives, we live. If he dies, we die. Choosing loyalty and honor over living under a new empire, all 5 women tragically took their own lives by hanging themselves from a carved wooden beam in the mansion.
The very next day, Prince Su had the 5 women quietly buried outside the city. He then went back to his mansion, dressed himself in his full imperial dragon robes and jade belt, sat upon his royal throne, and ended his own life. This was July 11, 1683. With his tragic death, the final, fading embers of the great Ming Dynasty were officially, permanently extinguished.
Section 3. The Mazu Miracles, from War to Worship. So out of this grim military reality and royal tragedy, how on earth do we end up with a story of divine intervention?
Well, first, we need to understand who Mazu is. Before she became a goddess, she was a mortal woman named Lin Yang, born way back during the Northern Song Dynasty. Legend has it she had this incredible ability to predict disasters and used her powers to save people. After she died at just 27, sailors started believing she would appear in the clouds during terrifying storms to guide their ships to safety. Over time, this local hero was completely mythologized into the ultimate sea goddess.
So, what ties this ancient goddess to our 1683 battle? Believe it or not, it's Shi Lang himself. He officially reported astonishing miracles to the emperor. First, when the Qing army was training in Penghu, they hit a severe drought. The only well they had was dry and full of mud. Shi Lang prays to Mazu, and suddenly sweet spring water flows endlessly, saving tens of thousands of his troops. Even wilder, during the height of the chaotic battle at Penghu, Qing soldiers reported literally seeing Mazu appearing in the clouds, guiding their fleet right through the crossfire. And Shi Lang presented these events to the emperor, not as myths, but as factual, official military reports.
Now, history loves a good plot twist. And here's a big one. Before Prince Zhu died, he left a will requesting that his royal mansion be turned into a temple dedicated to Mazu. And guess who actually made that happen? The exact man who conquered Taiwan and forced Zhu's suicide, Shi Lang. In gratitude for Mazu's supposed help during the campaign, Shi Lang converted his enemy's palace into the Grand Mazu Temple in Tainan, literally fulfilling the Ming prince's dying wish. Because Shi Lang's official memos claimed Mazu actively helped win the war, the Kangxi emperor took it completely seriously. In 1684, the emperor issued an edict that officially upgraded Mazu's status to Tianhou, or Empress of Heaven. That is the absolute highest rank for female deity in the Chinese pantheon. He even ordered royal ceremonies for her. Her divine status skyrocketed, basically because she was credited with a major military victory.
Section 4. Legacy of the Sea Goddess. So, how does this 17th century conflict directly shape the culture we see today?
First off, there's an amazing historical footnote right in Penghu. There's this modest little temple called the Shigong Shrine. It's the only shrine in the region dedicated exclusively to Shi Lang. But the crazy thing is, it wasn't built to celebrate his military dominance. According to local tradition, the people built it to thank him for his mercy, for treating prisoners humanely, and for actively choosing not to turn his massive victory into a bloodbath. But the real, lasting legacy is Mazu herself.
To put it into perspective, out of all the thousands of Mazu temples globally, Taiwan alone holds a staggering 10% of them. That's over 500 temples. After the Qing conquest and her imperial promotion by the emperor, worship of Mazu just exploded into Taiwan, making it the most thriving hub for her followers in the entire world today. And that brings us right back full circle. The narrative just completely morphed over time. What started as an explosive naval battle with cannons tearing through ships, a general fighting with his intestines spilling out, and thousands of casualties, eventually birthed a deeply rooted spiritual movement. Today, followers have given Mazu a new, distinctly modern title, the Goddess of Peace.
It really is wild how history layers itself over the centuries. A massive symbol of profound tranquility was literally forged in the fires of a vicious dynastic war. So I want to leave you with this to chew on. The next time you see the sweeping roofs and burning incense of a Mazu temple, will you just see a goddess of the sea? Or will you look a little deeper and see the ghosts of a 17th century war, the strategy of a one-eyed general, and the tragic fall of an entire dynasty? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.